So there's this natural tendency for us to really get involved with our projects and our businesses and our building the empire and just a sense of we'll put the relationship on hold, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like what we've seen happen a lot with people is that they kind of buy into their own story about you know, once they get the business sorted, then we can focus on the relationship. And having the business sorted and thriving and that sort of thing is going to contribute to us having a great relationship. And so it's okay to put the relationship on hold for now, put it on ice, as it were, and then get on with the business. It's not going to take that long and we can get things rocking.
Mm, mm.
But what ends up happening is when we buy into that story, is we shelve the relationship. We think that's all going to happen, and then time passes by, and on average, 3 to 5 years to get a business kicking,
Mm.
sort of thing. And if that's what happens, uh, that's pretty quick.
It is,
A
yeah.
lot of people underestimate, don't they? So
Absolutely, yeah. To
yeah.
really get a business entity running to a degree that supports a completely free lifestyle, where you got your freedom of choice to be where you want to be with who you want to be with as much abundance as you need. It's more like a 10-year process for most of us,
Yeah.
mere mortals, unlike some of the those crazy people who just jump in and turn things into an empire in 5 minutes. But because that's the exception rather than the rule. And the thing is, we sort of go into this sense of, oh, that could be us. As long as I can just focus on this thing for now, and you either sit aside or you work just as hard as I do, and whatever it is, then those unspoken agreements start to come into play.
Mm.
And there's seemingly no finish line for a lot of them too, because there's most couples have no idea what their freedom metric is, do they?
No,
They
that's right.
they don't know what it's going to take to have, in terms of capital or cash flow or both, to have the quality of life that they want.
But interestingly, it's like this abstract line in the sand
Yeah.
that we draw. It's like, oh, well, no, like when it gets to the point where things are going great, and that's kind of the general rule, that's how we'll know is things are going great. But from one person to the other, that can look different.
Mm-hmm.
And often we don't define what that actually is. And so we just rock on. And what we can find happens is that we put things on hold in the relationship, we get focused on the business. And even if we get to that point where it feels like now we're starting to, really kick some goals with the business, we find that because there's no clarity in what are we going for here,
Mm.
that we're both on the same page about in relation to outcomes with the business, the goalposts can tend to shift, and they do. Without
Yeah.
clarity, they continue to move, and so things continue to be put on hold.
Absolutely, because you need clarity of the bigger picture, the vision, like the two of you sitting down and going, what is it that we're actually working towards in terms of lifestyle? How do we
Mm.
want to live? How often do we want to work, if at all? How often do we want to travel? What type of place do we want to live in? And sort of doing the math on what's that going to take. And if you haven't done that, it makes things really, as you say, an abstract concept that you're chasing constantly. And I think the other thing is that, again, without awareness, what we think we're going for also shifts. So the vision might grow further, because as we go through life, things change naturally. There's inflation, there's rising costs for things, there's bigger needs. Maybe you started as a couple and then you had kids, so you needed a bigger house or a bigger car or all of the above. And so there's this lifestyle creep that comes in as well. And because you're living that lifestyle, it doesn't feel enough. It doesn't feel like it's going to be enough to support the full version of whatever the illusion or fantasy is about living a free and full life.
Mm.
So we need clarity as an endpoint, and we need clarity on the way, and an understanding of where we're actually at with that, don't we?
Yeah, and understanding is really important with regard to where we're at, but also having an understanding around the relationship, the dynamics that are associated with our relationship, and where we are in relation to that as well. Like what is the dynamic that we're currently in? could you say, oh, well, we're codependent, we're aloof? What do you have that clarity? Because that's equally important. I know for us, when we started our business, we had day jobs and we were then coming home, and so you'd work your shift at work and you'd come home and work on the business for a
Mm,
few hours and 3 4 hours sort of thing. So they were quite long days. But we both had our roles within the business. And so each of us knew what direction we were going in and what we needed to do, but our paths didn't cross that much.
mm,
We're in under the same roof, but man, we were just like head down, bum up, and going.
mm,
And what was really beneficial was that we had an understanding of relationship dynamics,
mm,
we could identify that as and when it happened that we found we drifted, and we'd find ourselves, without knowing it at the time, that we're in an aloof dynamic, which means, we're both doing our own thing. We're both kind of looking to conserve our energy because we're both working really hard.
mm,
So we haven't got time for anything extra or distractions or whatever. So we've just got to, make sure that we maintain our energy. But we could recognize that for what it was and just pull things back in and come together again, and take that time out to actually foster the relationship along the way, which worked out really well. Because for a lot of people who don't have that understanding, that still happens, but years pass
mm.
rapidly, and they can find themselves in a place where it's like, how did we get here?
Mm. Yeah, we're really on our own here. Well, I'm
Yeah.
on my own, you're on your own. And we have these weird perceptions, don't we? It's like, oh, well, I'm doing all of these things and they're only doing that, or vice versa. Or, you can have resentment or guilt or both or whatever going on. It can oscillate
Mm.
backwards and forwards. And neither of those emotional states are healthy in a relationship. They really don't belong there. And so having that awareness and being able to go, all right, well, there are going to be times when we have our things to get on with, but that doesn't mean that we're doing it because we need the separateness. We need to protect our energy, because we know we're going to come together and we're going to connect again with the vision, even if it's just a vision for what we're going to do next month as a couple, let
Yeah.
alone, what's going to happen in 10 years, or our biggest visions that we're holding for ourselves as well. So it's a matter of having that sense of where are we at in this particular point in time, and how can we come together in terms of crafting that vision, and not being abstract with it. Like, get specific on it, know what it is you're going for, know what it's going to cost to get there, even in today's money. That's okay. I think that's totally fine to work it out in today's money and then adapt as and when needs be, when world events happen or inflation hits or whatever. But it really allows for a sense of, oh, there is an end point to our definition of we've made it. And that makes it a lot more attainable. Whereas if it's abstract, it feels like we're never going to get there. And we can feel very fatigued in a 3 5 year period. You get really fatigued, really bought into this feeling of ongoing disappointment. We're not there yet, damn it. There's unmet expectations, and really not feeling like the game is worthwhile in the long run. But as we know, business and enterprise is one of the best investments that you can make. You're putting your effort, your gifts, your talents into a vehicle that is able to provide you essentially a limitless salary once you decide which path you're taking it. Whereas you can take a job, and likely that job will have a ceiling to it. The ceiling, and not saying there's anything wrong with that, but unless you're investing a significant portion of that money to get the money working for you, you are capped. You are held at a certain level. So in a business, you have the ability to leverage. You've got the ability to scale. However, if you're going home every day and feeling guilty and resentful, or any combination of I hope we get there someday, that's going to put more burden on you in order to create that. So, we're really about creating fulfilled life on all levels. So it shouldn't always be about the work. It shouldn't always even be all about the relationship. It should be also your creativity, your expression, all the other things that are important and juice you up in life. But the relationship is a beautiful augmenter of all the things that you love. if you do it right, if you're in the right dynamic that
Mm.
can really support you in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and with some understanding and clarity, we can have both. We don't have to have one or the other. And I think, particularly when you're in the throes of building business, it can feel like it's for now it's this
Mm.
and not that, and then later, hopefully, I can bring that the relationship on board as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know that you can craft your business and you can foster your relationship at the same time. And the beauty of that is that as your business does grow and does thrive, and to know that your relationship is as well,
Mm.
um, that's where it's at. And
Yeah.
I think too that a thriving business is very hard to have when the relationship isn't,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And hoping that you're going to turn around at the end and go, okay, we're there now. Let's fix this up.
Yeah.
Let's sort this out. If your spouse is even still there,
Yeah.
right? Or even if you're still with your spouse, you may have decided to up and leave too. So, with this awareness, it allows us to have that sense of, no, we're in this together and we're moving forward together to create something incredible together on all levels. And I think the other seductive thing about business is because you're usually out there in most businesses, not all businesses, but most businesses, you're out there to some degree. You're out there talking to people, connecting to people. Even though businesses are an entity, it's people connecting with people in some way, shape, or form. Even through a product, you've still got to appeal to people in order for them to purchase. But in that front, you are actually gaining and orchestrating things so that you have a sense of significance. You get lots of variety in the world of business, and there's connection with others. And so that can really feed parts of our neurology, like our dopamine release, our oxytocin, all those things. And we feel satiated quite often. And then we come home, and if the fatigue and the disappointment, the unmet expectations are living in that sacred space between the two of you, then on the scale, one's going to be a lot more favorable to be in than the other. And so we see that there's a tendency for a lot of high performance couples to drift towards the work, and then they just label themselves as workaholics and all these sorts of things. But it's not true. It's just a sense of, I get more satisfaction neurologically from my workplace, even if it's frustrating quite often, because those frustrations become something that you solve, and then you have a win and a big dopamine hit that goes along with that. But it's still not as personal as coming home to someone who you perceive, whether they do or don't, you perceive that they might be disappointed in you or becoming impatient, or hanging out for that day when we can cash in the check and go, we did it, we made it, right? So when we go into these dynamics, it's important to realize that part of the point of coming together as two sovereign beings and connecting is to reinvigorate the fact that this is not something on the side. We're not living in a state of disappointment. We can clear up any assumptions and perceptions, and we can continue on in that growthful manner.
Mm. Yep, it's a proactive approach. So we're not using hope management. We're actually quite aware of what's going on in our business, what's going on in our relationship, and we get to really enjoy both.
Yeah. And humans do buy into hope management a lot for almost everything. We hope that our health hangs out. We hope that the relationship will still be there when we've finished doing X, Y, and Z. We hope that the money will arrive somewhere down the track. I don't know why down the track. And it's this, well, things will get better. We're pessimistic optimists, aren't we? Which sounds ridiculous, but we're quite often unsatisfied with our current situation and how we think things are tracking. But at the same time, we also think that we will be better off in the future. That's why credit cards are so elusive to people. They think, oh, well, I'll get the credit, or I'll get the thing on some sort of a loan. It'll be all right, an afterpay situation, because of course, in 4 weeks' time, my whole financial environment's going to be completely different. Not right, but we have this sort of pessimistic optimism, with optimism thinking things will be better in the future. So we can't really lean into that as a dynamic for a relationships, although we don't say they're hard work, but they do take awareness, and they do take communication, effective communication.
Mm.
So, and this, otherwise the cost is too big. There's that fatigue, the familiarity with the disappointment, as we said before. I think you said emotional drift as well. That makes it really hard.
Yeah, and I think effective communication really isn't about saying things more cleverly or being heard better or whatever. It's more of an inside job when you are clear in yourself where you're coming from. What's driving my behavior, my actions, my desire right now. Where's that coming from? When you have some self-awareness around that, and take responsibility for yourself, then good communication is just a natural side effect of that. So I think a lot of people can run around trying to become better communicators,
or better manipulators.
Yeah, right. And put all the emphasis on that.
Yeah.
But when we make it about, hey, it's about me and how I'm showing up, and being clear about that, the rest takes care of itself anyway, So then you're looking in the right place for what is deserving of my attention and my focus is those things that I need to take responsibility for in business, in our relationship, and then you're on the money, so things can unfold naturally.
Yeah, one of the things, the other day we were sharing some of our visions about homes, our future home and our travel, and it's a bit of a daydreamy thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, and then I really think that we should do this, and it'll be really cool when we do that, and it's like when you're a kid and you get excited about something that's going to happen in the future, and you're going to you might be telling your friend about it or a sibling or something, and it's sort of like super exciting. But as adults, we've grown out of that. We tend to go, oh, well, it'll be obvious what we'll want to do once we've got the money and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, for example, listening to you talk about, what you love about that future vision you're holding for a house or the future vision you're holding for travel, the excitement on your face and the energy that you're giving off, that's really magnetic. And I want to be part of that. And I'm sure it was vice versa as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for you, but, but that sort of, sense of excitement, we're allowed to do that. Like why is that any less important than any other intimate moment in the relationship?
Yeah,
it's not. It's actually really important, and to do that as we go, regardless of where we are currently, holding that vision brings the enthusiasm. It brings it beyond hope. It brings it beyond the abstractness. It starts to, we share in what we love about those things and what we're looking forward to. And that means that the fatigue and the, any disappointments that might be going on are nowhere near as impactful, because it's like, okay, well, that's just for now. And we're still going for this thing together. We're on the same page. We really understand what we would love. We both want a pool. We both want pickleball courts. We both want nature. We both, and it's like, oh, cool. This is so cool. Let's align to that.
Yeah.
So
that's right. And you find that with that clarity, and it really builds on your resilience as well, because there's going to be times, like you say, where things are not going so great, but we have a vision sort of for the future, and we have a bigger picture that we're anchored into.
Yeah.
And so we can kind of move through those things as they come up.
Yeah.
We can hold our course, and they pass.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And it makes it more fun too, because as you look back, you were talking before about when we were first building this business, and working, and there's a lot going on, but we can sit back there and now and look at it and go, they were cool times. I mean, even though there was challenges, there was a lot of hard work at times, but they were cool times. They built a really strong foundation for us, and we can be proud of that, in a really positive, uplifting way. Whereas if we're just hanging out for that successful moment, that moment that we can go, we made it, you don't want to have to turn around and fix what's been going on along the way, or have like a bitter taste in your mouth because it was like, but I had to endure this, or I had to put up with that.
It was costly. Well, it doesn't have to be, but a lot of people do compromise relationships, their health, connection, and all sorts of things for their single-minded pursuits, only because they believe they can't have everything that they'd really love, which is not true.
No, absolutely. You can have the brilliant business, the brilliant relationship all together, lifting each other up.
Yeah.
Amazing. Very cool. See you on the next episode. Make sure you subscribe so you can catch it. See you soon.
Bye.